Well, now that Final Fantasy is going crazy, I'm sure there's a lot of people, specifically from Pokemon, who maybe have flipped other card games or they're very into the investment space that are thinking, is it too late? How can I capitalize? What plays are still there? The prices are so high. What to expect? And or maybe you're someone who's heard about all the hype, but you've never invested or collected in card games at all. When I was waiting for on release day, I was at a micro center waiting in line, and most of the people I talked to there, were just there because they liked Final Fantasy, or they came from the Pokemon hobby and they wanted to get their hands on some of the product. Some of them might have seen that the prices were going a little crazy online. This was obviously before the boxes even hit 800, or was it 900? Anyways, it's all been so fast. Um, and so I wanted to make a quick, almost one-stop shop video. You know, maybe if you're someone who's been doing sealed collecting for a while or sealed investing, there might be some repeat information. But this is specifically for people who might not have a new modern perspective, and maybe they've been in the investing space for a long time for these card games, or they don't know anything and they're looking for what's the right mentality to go into all of this. How should I be approaching this? So I'm really just going to share a lot of my personal point of view and trade secrets for how to approach this whole Final Fantasy beast. I'm going to try to go down the list of products, you know, sealed collector boxes, play boxes, commander decks, singles, and we're going to talk about each one of them. So let's start first with the Big Bertha, the collector box. Now, right now, I think the last time I checked, just this morning, Final Fantasy collector boxes have been bouncing off of $1,200 and $1,250. So it's looking primed to climb to $1,300, and a lot of people are looking at that thinking, well, dang, it's so high. Like, it's scary to go in now. What you have to look at when you check Final Fantasy and when you look at the situation, there's a couple things. So one is it can always go higher. So let's look at Lord of the Rings Special. So when Lord of the Rings Special spiked really hard, you know, several months after it actually came out, which is different than this situation. It took a while, but after a while it spiked to 1,000, and then it continued to drift up, and now it's almost 2,000 a box. It's been holding that level for a good year now. And Lord of the Rings Special was a set that may not have had the same print run as Final Fantasy, may have had a tighter, shorter print run. But the unique thing about this box is it was incredibly expensive, and it maintained the price. And I think those are things that it has similar with Final Fantasy. I think that's to date, I think that's the closest set you have to something like this Final Fantasy situation. But the Final Fantasy situation is even crazier, because straight out the gate, it's desired. Straight out the gate, it's being mass opened. Where Lord of the Rings Special kind of got overlooked. I remember even me, I was like, like a holiday set? Like, what's, you know, they're just kind of milking the same horse. What's the point? What I really missed was the fact that not only did it have serialized cards, and serialized cards will always make these boxes very desirable, since it's pretty much a for sure thing at this point that if it has serialized cards, it can't be reprinted, and the price is going to go up year after year after year because, you know, the natural attrition of booster boxes. And Final Fantasy definitely has that as well. But the main thing that Final Fantasy has going on is the fact that there's all of these people coming in that are willing to pay $500 to $1,000 for any big hit that you get from the box, which is different than a lot of situations you've had before where, like, you know, most people are going for like a couple of the big hits. No, they're going for pretty much anything. You get anything in foil from one of these boxes, and everyone's going to want to buy it. So if everyone wants to buy it, well, the prices are going to spike for that. And that's a main driver for this fervor of the collector boxes. I mean, yes, the boxes are great to open, but you look at the prices online, and when you pull cards from this product, you check the prices and you go, oh my god, I pulled $1,000 card from my $800 booster box. Oh my god, I pulled a $600 card from an $800 booster. It's left and right. These non-stop, like $200, $400, $800 bangers that you're pulling from these boxes. So, is $1,000 a lot of money? Yes. Will it go higher? I'm going to say certainly. And it's going to go higher pretty much by next week. It's looking like we're going to hit 1,500 before the month ends, which is insane. And it's not even going to be a full month of Final Fantasy, and this box is going to go from, it's going to go 2x, which let's say it was $750 on release, because I know a lot of stores and people were selling it for like $700, $750. Let's say it goes 2x to 1,500. That's ludicrous, but it would match the singles velocity, because a lot of the singles have gone for 6x. I'll get to the singles conversation in a bit, but to wrap up this collector booster box discussion, and yes, the Japanese boxes are climbing as well. If you don't have a collector box of Final Fantasy, I would recommend, and you have a sealed collection, I would recommend you buy one. It's going to be probably the fastest appreciating box in your whole collection. And if you have some other boxes that you can sell, and even for the 15% loss that you'll have on each box just to get some capital so that you can buy those and afford those, I would highly recommend you pick up a box. And you don't have much time either to try to get in on a respectable level, just because these boxes have really escaped reality, to be honest. They've just gone so high that most people are not going to be able to have a good entry point anymore. Well, you say that, but it's like, even at $1,200, I expect these boxes to go up several percentages within just a week. So this is a great entry. Buy a box. So I'm going to move away from the collector boxes. It's pretty obvious that, like, you see online and people are just like opening the box and pulling crazy amounts of money from just the box, from pretty much whatever they buy. So let's move away from that obvious discussion. I'm going to say obvious. Let's move into the play boxes. So how should you be looking at the play boxes? On a certain level, the play boxes definitely have some room, but you don't have as much time for these. The time horizon for these is not as good, because reprints will come. So that's the main difference between the fact that collector boxes being free money, free pindies, and the play boxes. Play boxes, reprints will come. So there's a little bit of uncertainty. Now, will the price dip below where it is right now? And obviously the boxes are climbing. I think the last I checked, they were about like 210, 220. Will the prices, when they do get the reprint, dip below this? Maybe. Maybe not. But the fact is, you just have way less time for something like these play boxes. So I think they are a good flip. If you had bought them at 1,500, would I be buying them at these levels? No. If you're someone who doesn't understand the difference, collector boxes can't be reprinted, and play boxes can. So definitely don't invest in the play boxes just yet. These are not good levels, especially if you're buying it on the open market. Don't buy it at these prices. The prices will most likely come back down, if not now, later. And the goal here with all of this is not to say, hey, is there room or meat left on the bone? The goal is, how long are you going to be holding this, and what's the price that you're really looking at selling these at? And I like to hold these products for a long time. And if I don't have a good price that I'm actually selling this stuff at, well, then I'm not really going to be tempted to buy it. Because I don't see the play box going to like $250, $300, and then the reprint happens, and then it stays at $250, $300. I can almost guess that if it did go to something that high, the reprint would happen, and it would not necessarily tank, but it would definitely, they could reprint this to maintain this $200 level. So that's my guess. Obviously, future might play out, and it could go crazy. It could go ballistic. Obviously, like I said, I doubt it, but that's my take on the play box situation. I would say it's an avoid. Don't be putting your money into this if that's what your goal is that you're investing. Don't put your money into this yet. Now, there is a caveat. At the end of this cycle, at the end of maybe like a year or two down the line, where the price has kind of rebounded and leveled out because Wizards has kept, reprinted and reprinted these play boxes like I think they're going to do, then that's actually when the best moment is to go in on these. Because the difference between something like this and like a Wilds of Eldraine play box is these Final Fantasy collectors that are going crazy right now, they're never going to go away. There's always going to be future Final Fantasy collectors coming in to buying these products, and they're going to look and say, oh my god, the collector box is $4,000 each? I'm not wasting my $4,000 on this. Let's see what else I can buy. Play box for $300, $400. I guess I'll go in on that and see what I can pull. Let's see if I can get a Buster Sword. So that's kind of how you have to look at the future is, yes, these people aren't going away. They're here to stay. And with that, you just have to realize play boxes are a great opportunity, just like they used to be before there was collector boxes. They're still a great opportunity. The only difference is they're not a good buy right now because they're still within Wizards reprint target. So stay away from play boxes for now. If you have a couple, I'd recommend selling it, slowly trickling it out into the market as it rises. Like I said, it might rise to like 250, possibly 300. I have only 3 play boxes myself, and I'm gonna sell one when it hits to like 225. A little quick $50 flip. Then I'm gonna sell another one if it hits 250 or 275, somewhere around that era, maybe 300. And then the last one I'm just gonna keep to kind of like keep my toes dipped into this water. And when those play boxes cycle out, I'm gonna go hard. And also, just keep in mind, I think Lord of the Rings play boxes will also have the same effect. So if you don't have any product from Lord of the Rings, definitely look into some of those play boxes and pick yourself up one. Or, sorry, set and draft. Because back then, it still had set and draft boxes. That's definitely a play with Lord of the Rings. So, let's move on from the booster boxes. Let's move into the commander deck. So the Lord of the Rings, or the Final Fantasy commander deck situation, there's the collector decks and then there's the normal decks. The normal decks are actually, they're kind of on risk right now because I've seen a post where they had a Costco deal for the commander decks, for the Final Fantasy commander decks. And if you know anything about the Costco deals, this will tank the price of Final Fantasy Commander. Maybe not in the long run because it's so new. Maybe like, it'll tank it for a little second. But it's just such an uncertain anomaly, and like having that looming over the shoulders of any specs on the basic commander decks. On top of that, Wizards is definitely going to reprint these just like the play boxes. So these I would put in the same category as play boxes, where it's not really a buy right now if you're planning on holding them. Or the basic ones are not a buy. If you're planning on holding them, but give it a year or two, swoop in, maybe when they have those Costco deals. If the price goes down enough, sometimes they heavily discount it. Like for March Machine, at one point they were $10, and you get like a Commander Masters booster pack. You get all this stuff. So I don't think the Final Fantasy ones, I think those are going to sell out. To be honest, they won't be a single one left. It's a little different because it's not going to be coming out at a time where like the product's already out of its cycle, and it's such a hype product. So I think they won't really tank the market just the same, but still it's going to cause some fluctuation. So I'd watch out for the normal commander decks. The collector commander decks, these are looking like a long-term hold. I really don't know. I don't have a good grasp because a lot of these collector commander decks, they do well. Like if you look at the Warhammer ones, they do well. The problem is always how long until they start to really pop off. And so far, everything has been popping off with Final Fantasy. These collector decks have not. They actually have been kind of like the weak pony. So if I was you, if I would put my money somewhere, it would not be in the collector commander decks. I think these are bricks in the short term, unless you're breaking them down and like getting some single value. I know some people are saying like if you have direct margins are much better on those, because sometimes you can sell these like $5 cards on direct for like $15, $20. So that would be the angle I'd be looking at, is maybe not buying these. These might not be the best. I mean, unless you want one for the collection, sure. Obviously, that rides different rulings. I wouldn't be looking into those personally. Now, let's go into singles. I want to talk about singles. So the singles are interesting because they have been climbing so quickly, and there's nothing left. And not just the singles, but I'm specifically talking about the foils. Any foil for Final Fantasy has just been going full double feature. Everything. In fact, even crazier so. And so I would highly recommend, if you haven't picked up a card in foil for Final Fantasy, you start with something that, maybe look at some of the Amano arts, look at something that you think looks nice, and buy one. The goal is to dip your toes in the water and kind of get a feeling of like how fast these markets are moving up, because if you're not invested, it's really going to just be a blur. It's going to be like one day you're going to be like, oh, I guess the price has moved and it's like way out of my reach. But if you are invested, you can feel the market momentum. Like, okay, I bought this thing at 200 and it dipped down to 180. In the morning, it's like 210. You can really get a feeling for it. And I think the singles are what is driving the collector box pricing anyways. And on top of that, you almost have this like self-fulfilling prophecy where like, because people are buying the singles up, the collector box is moving up crazy. Because the collector box moves up crazy, the singles need to go up higher because the collector boxes are more rare and harder to open. So it's like bouncing off each other, and these can't be reprinted. This is different than Pokemon. This could go, not infinite, but pretty parabolic, pretty easily. Because if there's nothing left on the market, and people still want everything, prices are just going to have to match that, and they're just going to have to be crazy. So, it's whatever people are willing to spend for it. I would highly recommend you buy foil versions, specifically of Through the Ages, specifically of these Commander chase cards. They're a little high in price right now, and so like that's not really my favorite. My more favorite spec for these is any of the Amano arts or any of the Through the Ages cards, because these, at least the price is in normal range of like not, $1,000 or whatever for like a card that you might not really care that much about. So you can really like get a nice position and buy like a couple of these. On top of that, I don't like the fact that the big chase character cards, I don't like the fact that there's many different versions of them. I mean, sure, it's like there's different price points that you can go in on it. So like, I'm not saying there's not money there, especially in speccing it. What I'm saying is it's not really my squeeze. I want that kind of like secret layer type. If you want this variant, you have to. If you want this variant in foil, unfortunately, they only come from the collector box. And not only that, there's one version, and I have that version. I don't want it to be like, okay, if you want this art, yeah, it comes from the collector box, but you can go into all these different ones. That's just a little personal thing. Like I said, any of the foil cards that you can get from Final Fantasy, anything, is a good spec right now. Because here's one interesting take that people don't really realize. If you go back and you think about the prices of foiling in Magic the Gathering, foils used to be quite coveted. Now, what changed was collector boxes. Collector boxes put so many foils into the market where random things, like for instance foil lands, or random different foils, the value's just not there anymore. Now, with this situation, it begs the question, how is the value going to shape out when people can't open these boxes for cheap? And I would argue that it's going to push the prices of anything foil upwards. So it could just be some like random foil, like the Astrologian Planisphere, or something like that. Something that you can pull from the play box, even those foils. But the thing is, because there's not such an influx of these these collector box foils swooping in and just like crashing the cards. Even these basic foils are specs. Even these basic foils will dry up, and once they dry up, there's not going to be more of them. So everyone right now is looking towards all of the special variants. You could go into the basic card foils. I remember buying a Buster Sword foil, and that thing's been doing great. You can go into the basics, like, just mythics or rares. I wouldn't really talk about uncommon specs, but even that maybe, or like common specs. I wouldn't really talk about those foils because those are kind of more plentiful in the play box. More talking about like rares and mythics. and specific cards to the collector box only. So that was a whole lot. Let's see if there's anything I need to tie all this together. One thing that's always hard to do, especially if you haven't done your neutral market, or if you haven't really done this a lot, is to strike big and strike while the iron is hot, and to go in all the way in as much as you can. And I think this situation, for me, I swung very heavy because I saw this playing out. I bought so many, okay, I'm not going to go into all my specs, but I saw this entire situation playing out, so I went hard. And the whole time I was worried that people were going to cancel it in the mail, or not ship it out, and maybe some of the ones I've bought, they still won't get shipped out because maybe those prices fluctuate. The problem is you just have to not only go in, but you need to go in on some big hitters. You need to be willing to take the $100, $200 loss and say, worst case scenario, I like this card and I'm keeping it. You need to be able to make those plays, and you need to be able to have some type of idea of how the market goes. Which, for Final Fantasy, sure, you might not have an idea for the Magic the Gathering market. I'm going to tell you, for me, this situation is very unique. This is a situation where almost whatever you buy that's collector exclusive, or collector comes mostly from collectors, is going to go up. And that includes foils. And so, I would also say this. If there was ever a set to go all in on in Magic the Gathering, it would be this one. Specifically for the collector box cards. I'm going to wrap it up. That's pretty much it. I really hope that a lot of people aren't sitting there waiting for the prices to come back. I hope everyone knows that these prices are only going to go up. You can look at any of the past sets. The most negligible set, you can look at any of the sets that came out recently and look at the collector box prices go up. You can look at the single prices go up. And so when you compare it to something like Final Fantasy, which is going into speculative fervor, these prices could double again from these levels. They can easily double in such a short amount of time. And on top of that, you really don't know what's going to happen with all this stuff. There's a lot of product out there, sure, but there's only so much, and it's never going to be new. So let's say the prices go up to $2,000 a box. By, I don't know, by the end of the year, $2,500 a box. A lot of people are going to sell their box for that. A lot of people are going to say, I would like to get $2,500 now. I don't want to wait for it to continue to climb. And then it's gone. And then maybe someone picks it up and puts it in their collection. If they don't, they're holding it until they can profit off that $2,500 box. So the staircase just keeps piling on for something like booster boxes anyways, out-of-print booster boxes, and you can consider this an out-of-print booster box, because it'll never be printed again. That's pretty much it. Good luck to everyone who speculated in Final Fantasy, and won big. Pretty much anyone who did speculate in Final Fantasy won very bigly, very huge. And I'm out. Gotta ship these off. If you saw my last video, you know that the sample packs are a freaking steal of a flip for any of the Commander product. So, it's getting shipped off. This is about, let's count it. That's 25, let's say 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Just one set of 4 is $80, which would be what you'd get from a Commander deck set. So if you can get a Commander deck set for $300, sell each one of those for $20. Yeah, you only need to profit $210 or $220. One cloud, sell that, and you only need to profit like $100. And you got 2 other $80 cards or $80 decks in there, so pretty free. All right, y'all. See you later. Peace.